Shalom everybody, I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by these guys right here, Lay of the Land, where we take a look at those top stories that make the headlines here in Israel. We do it every Monday to Thursday. And I hear a lot from you guys, my amazing community around the world, a lot of frustration that the news that you see reported on the Israel Brief is not necessarily reported on your channels like CNN or Sky News or whatever. And that's why we started the Israel Brief. We started the Israel Brief so that you would get the news from Israel by Israelis that you don't see in your media. Now, of course, the media won't tell you that it is day 370 since the 7th of October last year, when Hamas committed horrific massacres in parts of the south of Israel, kibbutzim, communities, the Nova Festival site, Road 232, and the small shelters, bases across the south, which saw over 1,200 people brutally murdered, raped, mutilated, and tortured, and over 250 taken hostage into the Gaza Strip. It is day 370, and we still have 101 hostages held captive. While there are still hostages being held captive in Gaza, we will not rest. We will continue to speak on their behalf. So let's take a look at the top stories. And Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said that Israel's response to last week's massive ballistic missile attack by Iran from Iranian sovereign soil onto our sovereign soil, that our counterattack, which everybody is waiting for, will be lethal, precise, and surprising. The defense minister went on to say they will not understand what happened, but they will see results. And of course, there are a lot of pundits speculating what sites in Iran will Israel possibly attack. Will we attack the nuclear sites? Will we attack oil fields? But of course, we're not privy to that information. The defense minister went on to call Iran's attack a failure. Now, Iran launched those 181 missiles towards Israel. The entire country was covered. We all had to take shelter, me and my shelter where I broadcast from every single day. And let me tell you, it was quite a harrowing, scary scenario, hearing the non-stop sirens and our incredible three-tiered air defense array just taking out those missiles. But of course, they did manage to cause a lot of damage to people's homes. A lot of people from the shrapnel, from interceptions, had broken windows, some structural damage, but not one Israeli was killed. The only casualty was a Palestinian from Gaza who was in Jericho in the West Bank at the time. And I think many of you out there who are spiritual, who are religious, can understand the hand of Hashem, the hand of God, sits over this country, and we saw it last week. Now, last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Biden spoke for the first time in a number of weeks. It's no great secret that sometimes there is a little bit of tension between the two leaders, but I think that's normal between any democracies and any alliances. We're not always going to agree on everything. We don't have a readout about what was discussed exactly. We know that the call lasted between 40 to 50 minutes. And the president and the prime minister discussed the Iranian attack, as well as Hezbollah's continuous bombarding of Israeli communities in the north of the country with rockets every single day, as they have been doing since the 8th of October. The president said that he stands behind Israel 100%, but Israel must limit the escalation. Now, to me, this is very interesting language, because straight after the attack, or as the attack was unfolding, President Biden said to Iran there will be severe consequences for them for attacking Israel. But in the days that have followed, when he has been asked should Israel attack the nuclear sites, his response has been no. And many of us in Israel And bearing in mind that we do not endorse any particular political figure, party or candidate here on the Israel Brief, but Israelis feel that if the same attack took place on American soil or French soil or British soil, the response would be understandably swift and harsh, and nobody would have an issue with it. But of course, Israel is held to a different standard. It is almost like, we don't negotiate with terrorists, but you guys must. And that's not going to happen. We will defend our country our way. The president also condemned the horrific surge in anti-Semitism. I think one of the illuminating issues of the last year has been that all that latent anti-Semitism that has been bubbling under the surface, that we have been warning about is now out in the open, and people are no longer disguised. We see them for who they are, which makes them easier to identify. In a story that you really cannot make up, UNRWA, that's the United Nations Relief Works Agency, they will retain their candidacy for the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not making this up, guys. This is actually happening now. An Israeli organization called Im Tirtzu have launched a petition. If you happen to come across the petition, I would encourage you to sign it. It's had about 5,000 signatures so far. But this is really a story that you cannot make up. UNRWA, as we know, has been responsible for perpetuating the cycle of violence through the incitement of hatred. But if we look at their actions on the 7th of October, we know that many of their staff participated in the massacres. There is that footage of murdered, now held hostage, but murdered Jonathan Samarano, his body being taken by an UNRWA worker, put into the back of the car and taken into Gaza, where his remains are still held today. We know that UNRWA staff celebrated, and UNRWA staff have held some of our hostages in their homes. So it's absolutely preposterous. But when we say the world is upside down, it's no wonder when you see events like this. And finally, this is just too heartbreaking. Yarden Bibas, the father of baby Kfir Bibas and Ariel Bibas, turns 35 in captivity. This is the second birthday that Yarden, who believes his family were killed as he was separated by them. We don't know the whereabouts of Shiri Bibas and her two beautiful flame-haired baby boys. Nobody wants to presume anything, but he turns 35 in captivity, his second birthday. And it's absolutely terrifying that many of the hostages are starting to celebrate, I don't know if celebrate's the right word, but are starting to mark a second birthday in captivity. At the Israel Brief, we will not stop speaking for the hostages. We will make sure that we advocate for them as long as there is a single hostage still held in the Gaza Strip. So on to our audience question, and this comes from Doris in London, who says, how does Israel mark Yom Kippur? Well, that's a very good question, because tomorrow night begins the start of Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, the most solemn day in the Jewish calendar. And it is a day that whether you are religious or secular, or you go to synagogue or don't go to synagogue, most Jews will observe. So in Israel, you will start to feel the solemnity of the day throughout the day as we approach sunset. The minute that Kol Nidre, which is the service that brings in Yom Kippur, the minute that starts, you will not see a car on the road. Programming on TV will cease completely, and there will be not a single vehicle on our roads except for emergency vehicles. So normally what happens is the roads, including our highways, are full of children with their skateboards and their roller skates out there because there's no traffic until the end of Yom Kippur. And Israelis will mark it, and I think this year will be ever more poignant because it's the first Yom Kippur since the horrific attacks and massacre of the 7th of October. And as the sun sets on Saturday night, yes, it comes out Saturday night, Israelis will start to return to the roads. We will start to resume programming. But for those 25 or so hours, the entire country comes to a standstill. So let me take this opportunity to wish all who observe Yom Kippur, Gamar Chatima Tova. May we all be inscribed for a good year. Tzom Kal. Have a safe and an easy fast. And guys, don't forget that our website is at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel Site, our YouTube channel right here at the Israel Brief. We are on X at Lay of the Land 5, LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, Instagram at Rolene_Marks. And guys, God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. Gamar Chatima Tova. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you again on Monday. Bye for now.